US President Donald Trump is expected to arrive in Beijing on Wednesday evening for a major diplomatic visit that is likely to focus heavily on Iran war, worsening global trade tensions, energy, security, and China's growing relationship with both Iran and Russia. According to the White House schedule, Trump will hold formal talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Thursday morning before concluding the visit on Friday. Senior officials from both governments are also expected to participate in a series of economic and security meetings alongside the leaders' summit.
应国家主席习近平邀请，特朗普总统即将对中国进行国事访问。
US officials have described the visit as highly significant, both politically and symbolically. The White House says the discussions are aimed at rebalancing relations between the world's two largest economies while strengthening what the administration calls America's economic independence and strategic competitiveness. The trip comes at a particularly difficult moment for Washington. Trump is still dealing with the political, military, and economic consequences of the ongoing conflict involving Iran, specifically the disruption in the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical oil shipping routes through which a large percentage of global energy supplies pass every day. The conflict has contributed to rising oil prices, instability in global financial markets, and growing concerns about inflation and supply chain disruptions across multiple industries. The Beijing visit had originally been planned for earlier this year but was postponed in March because of the escalation of the US-Israel war involving Iran and fears that regional conflict could widen further. Now, with energy markets unstable and global supply chains facing renewed pressure, the White House appears to be looking toward Beijing for diplomatic leverage and economic cooperation. A senior US administration official told reporters that Trump may urge China to pressure Iran more directly, particularly regarding Iranian oil exports and Tehran's access to dual-use goods and technologies that could potentially support both civilian industries and military programs. The official said Washington believes China has significant influence over Tehran because China remains one of the largest buyers of Iranian oil despite US sanctions. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has already publicly accused China of indirectly helping finance Iran by continuing to purchase large volumes of Iranian crude oil. He argued that these purchases provide Tehran with critical revenue at a time when the United States is trying to economically isolate the Iranian government. China, however, has adopted a more cautious and balanced approach to the conflict. Beijing has repeatedly called for an immediate ceasefire and a diplomatic solution to the crisis.
中方始终认为，中东海湾国家主权、安全和领土完整。
Last week, China hosted Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi for talks focused on regional stability, energy, security, and economic cooperation. At the same time, Chinese officials have refused to recognize what they describe as America's unilateral sanctions on Iran's oil sector, arguing that such restrictions are not supported by international law or the United Nations. Chinese leaders have also expressed concern that continued instability in the Middle East could seriously damage the global economy, particularly Asian economies that rely heavily on imported energy from the Gulf region. The war and the temporary closure and disruption of shipping routes through the Strait of Hormuz have already increased transportation costs and energy prices across Asia, adding urgency to the Beijing talks. Beyond Iran, Trump is also expected to raise concerns about China's relationship with Russia, specifically Beijing's economic and technological cooperation with Moscow during the ongoing war in Ukraine. US officials remain worried that Chinese exports and financial support could help Russia withstand Western sanctions and continue its military operations. Trade disputes are also expected to feature prominently during the meeting. Washington and Beijing remain divided over tariffs, market access, intellectual property protections, and restrictions involving advanced technology exports. Another major issue likely to be discussed is rare earth minerals, which are essential for manufacturing semiconductors, electric vehicles, military equipment, and other advanced technologies. The United States has been increasingly concerned about its dependence on Chinese rare earth supplies because China dominates much of the global market. Several prominent American business leaders are expected to accompany the US delegation, including executives from Boeing, major agricultural companies, and technology firms. Their presence highlights the strong economic dimension of the trip and the administration's efforts to stabilize commercial ties despite broader geopolitical tensions. Business groups are expected to push for improved market access, reduced trade barriers, and greater stability in US-China economic relations. One issue where diplomats expect little or no breakthrough is Taiwan. US officials say Washington's position on Taiwan remains unchanged despite rising tensions with Beijing. The United States continues to support Taiwan's self-governance and defensive capabilities while officially maintaining its One China policy. China continues to view Taiwan as part of its territory and has increased military pressure around the island in recent years. through military exercises, naval patrols, and air force operations. Analysts say Taiwan issue remains one of the most sensitive and dangerous areas in the US-China relations. For now, global markets, diplomats, and political leaders around the world will be closely watching the Trump-Xi meeting to see whether it can help ease tensions surrounding the Iran crisis and reduce broader geopolitical pressures affecting global trade, energy supplies, financial markets, and international security.